I'm delighted that we've assembled some real global experts in the education world who are themselves sort of influencing this digital disruption and the changes that are going to happen over the next decade. I'm going to ask a few questions and direct them to maybe one or two of you each question rather than having everybody cover every topic. What are the biggest opportunities for digital disruption in higher education?
One of the biggest things that we see is scale. Our courses, the massive open online courses, are globally available and also free. That is something that brings education to everyone that has an internet, but also brings back data so that we can look at what is going out, what's coming back in, and how we can bring that back into the classroom and in education in general.
Disruption can be extended beyond digital. Peter Drucker, he was from Eastern Europe, and he was helping a business school there in Slovenia, IESE. He was, in his last periods of time, trying to incorporate music. He was working with a young violinist, and the idea was, okay, can we have a relationship between management and music? So is there a music of success? Is there a music of failure? If there is a music of progress, I have continued to work with that violinist, and in some programs he does a fantastic job.
Obviously using technology in order to provide scale. I would maybe flip the coin a little bit and would say, for us at least at IE Business School, it is not only to achieve scale, but to some extent as well to achieve personalization. Using machine learning, using technology in order to understand much better the knowledge or the expertise level of individuals, understanding much more about their preferences, how they want to learn, when they want to learn, and I think here technology can be absolutely useful in order to really customize or personalize the learning journey.
So in terms of disruptive technologies, you've heard a lot about AI, big data, mobile, all of those sorts of things, and you know that it's fairly common knowledge that they're going to have a big disruptive effect on universities, mostly because they're creating an experience for people in their personal lives, and then that creates expectations for what their experience should be within universities. And I guess where our focus is looking at what sort of experience we can create by putting those pieces together creatively to try and enhance graduate skills rather than reduce them. I think that's the big challenge.
What makes a successful digital innovation in a university?
Giving the opportunity to fail. Failing is where you're going to actually learn what works, what doesn't work. Failing actually enhances learning more than it disrupts it. Experiments without risk of failure aren't experiments.
Do you believe that part of digital disruption is creating these rock star professors who actually could be beamed into any classroom and actually, lesser institutions, just have moderators that are moderating rock star professors?
Well, I think what we're really looking at is the opportunity to take learning to a higher level, creating coaches, mentors, rather than just sage on the stage. There is the potential of rockstar professors in some ways, but I think most of the professors that I've run into, when they face a challenge based on learning, it becomes a two-way street. It becomes them learning from others.
I look at your rock star professors and your superstars who can do all of these things, and I tend to think that's not where we would sort of put our baseline. So I think probably more commonly there are people who are very good at specific things, and in education at the moment I think they're probably being forced to do a number of different things. So preparation of the curriculum, you know, marking, grading, the administrative sort of affairs, and actually standing up and making sure that, you know, learning enters children's and students' heads. So I guess I wonder myself whether there's going to be a more specialisation heading forward. So people specialising in specific roles where they are excellent, and working together as multidisciplinary teams to deliver that learning.
To some extent, I think I would agree, but I would probably say they have to become stellar, not necessarily rock stars. They have to become stellar, and I think in a couple of skills or in a couple of aspects of their life. It really means that we have to develop thinking, new thinking that actually has an impact on the world. And ideally, it is having impact on the world in terms of academic or impacting the academic community, but at the same time as well, impacting society. So I would say they have to be stellar in developing thought leadership, and they have to be stellar as well in being able to facilitate, moderate, and coach.
Working sometimes in alliances with other schools can be very, very helpful. I think that the markets are big enough and the opportunities are big enough today as not to think that you are competing and that you are hiding and that you are, on the contrary, working in alliance, and it helps a lot.
The big disruptions actually come from business model innovation, not product or service innovation. So you look at Airbnb and Uber, for example, they've disrupted the business models. And I'm just wondering, we have some pretty serious barriers to that kind of disruption, not the least of which those of us that are in graduate education, graduate business education, will say are the AECSB, the EFMD, and other accrediting agencies, which tend to entrench certain kind of requirements from institutions. So I'm just wondering if any of the panelists have any ideas about how we may see some innovation and disruption on the business model side.
With respect to the business model and how it's changing, I truly believe we probably have to become as educational institution much more like data companies to some extent. And I think that's still far out, but data companies in that sense of tracking students continuously in order to improve learning and truly understand them as individuals and help them to achieve their full potential, so that clearly. But at the same time, data companies in that sense, and that might be the link to how it actually will affect the business model, is matching them then to employers. Because I think a big responsibility of ours is as well, or part of our business model is as well, that we serve as a selection agency to some extent. And we send a quality signal to employers and make sure that we provide them the right talent. And I think with data, that's going to become much more effective. So I think that's going to be a significant impact as well in terms of our business model. Are we slow to respond? Yeah, absolutely. Are we probably going to be disrupted by outside players? Yes, I think so. I mean, that's my biggest fear.
AI is on an exponential up curve, so when is a professor going to be replaced by AI? And as Martin is saying, I'm much more worried about what Google can do. Not worried, I mean, it's going to be amazing. So when is the favorite professor going to become a bot? And what does that mean for the future of higher education?
In terms of where we're at with universities in general, certainly our university, we're still very much in an information transmission mode. We really haven't sort of progressed too far along the line to sort of learner experience design, where we look at the best way to structure and sequence learning for each individual person. And I think once we get further down that track, I think the AI and stuff can start to add value. I think when you're still looking at pure information transmission, it's very difficult to imagine how AI is going to help.
I see some limitations in the platform more than the idea of the AI coming into the play. Once the platform comes up to a certain level, I think you'll see a little bit more of it. I think there'll be a slow build, and then it may take off. MicroMasters is even younger, so it's really an infant.
I was actually talking to Jerry about this yesterday, and he was saying he sees AI as a great opportunity to actually enhance the learning and teaching capability of an individual professor because of its greater capability that can actually make the learning and teaching experience better and not be a threat. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. So on that note, we actually have run out of time. Jerry is showing me his watch. So I would like to thank Pedro Nueno, Martin Boehm, Steve White, and Brad Goodman. Thank you very much for participating. It's been a great discussion. I hope everyone's enjoyed it.